Hi, I am your friend Avinash, and today's video topic is data binding in Angular. What is data binding? Data binding allows an element, an internet user to manipulate the web page elements using a web browser. It employs dynamic HTML and does not uh, require complex scripting or programming. User in web pages that contain interactive components such as forms, calculators, tutorials, and games. Incremental display of web page makes data binding convenient. In short, data binding ensures any change made in the UI of the application is also reflected in the component and vice versa. By doing so, data binding ensures consistency throughout the application. Now we see types of data binding. Basically there are two types of data binding: one-way data binding, two-way data binding. One-way data binding again includes three types: string interpolation, using property binding, and event binding. First one, string interpolation. Interpolation is a technique that allows the user to bind a value to a UI element. Interpolation binds the data one way, that is from TypeScript file to HTML file. The syntax is within double curly braces. We need to mention variable name, which is mentioned in TypeScript file. Second one is property binding. Property binding is a one-way mechanism that lets you set the property of a view element. Property binding uses square bracket syntax for data binding. It involves updating the value of the property in the component and binding it to an element in the view template. Drawback of interpolation binding is interpolation binding can only be used for string values. When you want to bind boolean values, property binding is a better option. See, third one is event binding. This data binding type is used when information flows from the view to the component when an event is triggered. The view sends the data from an event like a click of a button and to be used to update the component. It is exactly opposite to property binding, where the data goes from component to view. The event could be a mouse click or a key press. The event is generally occur due to user interaction. Next way of data binding is two-way data binding. Data flows from component to the view and back. The component and view are always in sync and consistency is maintained, that is, changes made on either end will immediately update both ways. This is typically used in forms where any changes need to be reflected in both the component and the view. Thank you. That's all about data binding.